Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video on Gran Turismo Sport. We're back with a track guide for Daily Race C, driving the Super Formula car at Laguna Seca. So this is quite a tricky combination to get your lap as clean as possible in terms of qualifying, and qualifying is very essential for this race. It is, I think it's 15 laps driving the Super Formula car. You have to use the hard tyres. Now what I have worked out is that there is a certain strategy that will work, that we will talk about at the end of the video, which will make this qualifying pretty essential that you get as far up the grid as possible, because the dirty air around this combination is particularly strong. It's very hard track to overtake in general anyway. Add to that the loss of aero when following another car, and overtaking is extremely difficult. You do have your overtake button, but there isn't really a straight long enough to utilize that. So yeah, qualifying essential to get every corner as nailed as possible. We're going to go through the track guide, try and help you out in terms of getting your qualifying as fast as possible to start you as far up the grid as possible for this race. So coming out the last corner, try and make sure you get a reasonably solid exit. Early upshift into third gear helps with the traction going through down onto the main straight. And now looking into turn one, you're going to be looking for the number 3 board on the right hand side. So as we slow this action down, you'll see the number 3 board appears there. Now that is pretty much your braking point, dead on that point. You'll see my braking inputs going in just as we get to that number 3 board. You can see there the first inputs are going in. Now we're going to downshift down into second gear. You can see I go down to second gear, trail braking all the way into corner, try and hold as narrow line as possible through this corner. You want to stay to the curb as much as possible. Early upshift into third gear, maximum power down, utilize the full width of the track, almost going a little bit wide there. You can see we're chasing the ghost of Jose T in front of us. Now into this corner, you can see it's very important to brake just after the number 2 board, but also use the curb on the left hand side to widen your angle into this corner. And again, avoid the sausage curbs on this track. They will completely ruin your lap. So again, in the race, make sure you stay away from them. They will completely send you off. Now into the next braking zone, the next corner. We're going to go almost flat out through this corner. You can see using that curb angle there to try and chuck us into the corner. You can see how we position the car, and just a little lift off the throttle, and again get your right hand tyre onto the curb, but just avoid that sausage curb. It will send your car off onto the left hand side, onto the dirt, and yet ruin your lap. As we see, we just almost run to the gravel there, but just about keep our car onto the track. And then again, using that number 2 board just before the number 2 board as our braking reference down through the gears, and again use the angle of the curb again here to really chuck the car in. That's how I try and extend as much of the track as possible. And an early upshift into fourth gear, and again extend the track as much as possible as we work our way up the hill into this extremely fast left hand corner where you're turning in midway between the 2 and 1 board. And again, make sure you avoid that curb on the left hand side. If you hit that, you're going to be spun off down the right hand side, and your lap will be completely over. As we now work our way into the corkscrew braking, as you can see there in front, the darker tarmac, that is the braking zone where everyone's been on the brakes. You can see we hit that brake just as soon as we get to the start of that maximum braking. Now going into the braking inputs, as we go down to second gear, trying to get the car to rotate as we try and get our left hand tyre onto the green bit of AstroTurf. As we upshift to third gear also, you can see we early upshift to third gear to try and settle the car down as we accelerate down the corkscrew, trying to get the right hand tyre to skim the curb on the right hand side. And it's very important, if you do that in second gear, you've got the chance of spinning the rears, rotating the car, and that again will ruin your lap. So yeah, early upshift into third gear, downhill now, accelerating, an early upshift into fifth gear. As we come off the throttle, you can see I just lift off the throttle slightly there just to get the car rotating, to get the weight transfer on the car. And then again back on the throttle, maximum throttle, again using that number 2 board as our braking reference. As we go right onto the number 2 board, we're onto the brakes. And again, we're going to use this curb on the left hand side to really widen the lines into these corners. It's so important that this track to utilize as much track width as possible. And again, also important to avoid these curbs. So many curbs at this track that can ruin your lap if you just go a little bit too aggressive on the apex of the corner. And now into the next braking zone, using that number 3 board, braking just before it, down through the gears. You're going to see now into second gear, and again, you don't want to take too much of a tight angle with it. You want to kind of widen the line and give yourself the best ability to get on the throttle. You see how both myself and Jose T using the full track width there, early upshift into third gear, and now accelerating down the main straight over the line for a 1 minute 5.3. A pretty solid lap. Our optimal by the end of this, I think, once we restarted, it was a 105.245 or something like that. So there is potential to go quite a bit faster, but I'm pretty happy with that lap for now. We were able to improve our DR quite a bit with this lap after starting from pole position quite a lot. But you can see again, this view really does emphasize about using the full track width. I've slowed it down from this view this time to really show you, because you can see again, look how we really use everything available on this track. Because this track is so important to use, it's quite a tight, narrow track. There's no runoffs. If you run wide, you're onto the sand and you're going to ruin your lap. So you can see again, it's so important to get as much out of the track as possible, almost going off the track there as we overutilize some of the track width there. But again, into this corner, look at the right hand side there where the tyre was just on the edge of the curb. It's so important to do, because every inch you're utilizing on track width is an extra bit of angle that you can take through the corners and a bit more speed. Again, you can see it there as we almost hit that sausage curb, but just about get away with that. Very lucky there. We actually did skim it, but we didn't hit it hard enough that threw us offline. And then down into the braking zone again, you can see using the full width of the track, and again cutting that almost perfectly there. I really nailed the corkscrew. This is why our lap actually ended up being quite a solid lap. We got that corkscrew almost perfectly, and again, I like to take quite a narrow line through that corner. I do see a lot of people taking a wider line. It's something I started, I think, from Project Cars, where Project Cars really suited that narrow line, and it seems to work on other games for me as well. It's just the way I like to do that corner. And then into that braking zone, you can see widening the line as much as possible and squaring the car off. It's so important to get that car squared off to enable you to get on the throttle. And that early upshift into third gear, very important to stop that second gear wheel spin kicking in, which will slow you down all the way down the straight. So yeah, that third gear early upshift, very important on that final corner. So yeah, with regards to this track, it is very important to get your strategy right as we watch that lap at full speed again. I'm going to talk about the strategy for this daily race C that is on at the moment. So obviously, with yourself getting as far up the grid as possible, the strategies for this race are, I personally think it's best to just do the no stop, start on the hard tyre, because the dirty air is so strong that even if you've got someone on mediums, you can actually hold them behind you. We've managed to do it a couple of times last night, holding off drivers even though we're on the hard tyres, because it's such a hard track to overtake anyway, and you've got your boost button to defend if you need to. And the pit lane loss is quite high, it's around 11 seconds. You don't really need fuel, you just need to do a bit of gradual short shifting for this race, just every now and then. Just don't over rev the car. One thing I'll say about this car is it will be faster if you rev it out completely, but it's not going to lose a massive amount if you just shift just as you're getting up to like the end of the bar. Just before that end of the bar, if you just shift there, you will save quite a bit of fuel, because it really chews through the fuel when you're really using all the rev range. Also, another tip to save fuel is avoid using your boost as much as possible, because the boost button, the overtake button, what that does is it pumps more fuel into the car, so that enables the car to go a little bit faster. So that is why when you use that, your fuel will go down very fast. So yeah, the more you avoid using that, the more fuel you will save. So yeah, it's about saving fuel just a little bit. You can still drive it quite aggressive for this race. You don't need to save too much fuel. And I think the best strategy is definitely starting on the hard tyres. Now, I haven't started the race from pole and actually tried out the mediums. The mediums are a little bit faster. You need to build up an 11-second gap though, which is quite difficult. I think the mediums can go for about 10 or 11 laps, 12 laps, something like that. And you'd need to get that gap over 11 seconds to ensure that you came out in front of a hard tyre runner, which could be quite difficult as the tyre wear kicks in. It would be interesting if you could do it. I'm not 100% sure if it's possible. I think it might be possible if you really go for it and put down the lap times. But yeah, like I said, I think it's a very risky strategy using the medium tyres. Personally, I think it's a better strategy to start on the hard tyre if you're starting in pole position anyway. To start on the hard tyre. But then again, if you're starting on P3 and you start on the mediums and the cars in front of you are on the hard tyre, your race is over. So I think the best way to do this, no matter what, is start on the hard tyre and just run your race based on what others are doing anyway, and just see if you can make progress through mistakes, because it's such a hard track to overtake. If you start on the mediums from P1 and you don't build that gap up to 11 seconds, then you're going to get overtaken by a no stopper if the car behind you is on a no stop plan on the hard tyres. So yeah, the other strategy as well, obviously if you start on the hard tyres and then pit lap 3 or 4 and do the mediums, you're going to put yourself in so much traffic, and there's going to be so many cars that are probably also doing the no stop strategy, that I think the safest plan for this race to increase your driver rating and boost your stats up is to just start the race on the hard tyres. Maybe run some time trials with the hard tyre, might actually help you out in terms of your race pace also once you've done the lap that you need on the mediums. And bear in mind that you will need to brake just a fraction shorter this longer distances. So you'll need to brake a little bit earlier, especially into turn 1, where I found you brake just before the number 3 board rather than dead on it. And there's a couple of other, like the corkscrew, just a little bit earlier just to help the rotation and get the car slowed down. And also the final corner, very important there. I found that with the hard tyres, you will need to brake just a fraction earlier, a little bit before that 3 board than what we was already, just to help slow the car down. So yeah, bear all this in mind. I hope this helps you out. Try out the no stop. I think it's the best way to do it. We managed to get quite a lot of solid results last night doing it, and we actually increased my driver rating over 82,000. So yeah, it definitely worked out for me. It should work out for you if you can practice on them hard tyres. And let me know in the comment section how your races have gone, if it's helped you out with the no stop. Now, obviously in lower splits, it could be different between the hard and the medium stops and stuff like that, whether you use a no stop or a one stop plan. But for higher splits, I definitely think the no stop is a way to go. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed, and I'll see you all soon for another video. Thanks again for watching, everyone.